Hey everyone. So, for a long time now, a lot of you guys have been asking me to do this MRCS Part A series thing. So, I really wanted to finally get down to it. From the beginning, I did not want to make a story series out of this because this is in no way like something explaining a process or a procedure like I usually do with my story series. Like, they're all explaining like, the MD prep or the MMI or like the entire process. This is in no way that. This is just me talking about my experience, what I did to pass the MRCS Part A, and the advices that I got, the advices that worked for me. So just use this as a very vague sort of a guide. Do not depend on this video entirely. I would not recommend that. There are so many resources out there that can tell you exactly how to, like what the process is, how to apply, everything like in detail about MRCS part, and that's not what I'm doing here. So I would not suggest that you depend on only this video and just like listen to this just to know like another person's experience of how their MRCS part A was. So this is like I don't really have a lot of time for video editing, neither am I good at it, I think. So this is going to be like a really raw session. There'll be a lot of mistakes and stuff in between. I really wanted to do this as a live session, you guys, but then apparently if you start a YouTube channel, you need a number of followers before you can do it live. So I'm trying to just like consider this as a pre-recorded live session, completely unedited. And I'll just tackle like a few questions and stuff. Okay, so let's start with me booking for my MRCS Part A. In 2021, August, I booked for my MRCS Part A that was due in that was supposed to be in January 2022. I really wanted to sit for my MRCS Part A much earlier. In fact, I actually started my residency in November 2019, and my Arab board was supposed to be, not supposed to be, did happen in around November 2020, October, November 2020. And it's all like the same stuff, basics and everything. So I really have wanted to just wait for my Arab board to clear my Arab board and then just continue on that same track of studying and then give the MRCS Part A, because it's really all just basics anyway, and there's no point in like just delaying it further and further. But because of a lot of personal stuff and all, I was not able to do that. That is why I wrote my MRCS Part A a little bit into my third year, which was not the plan. But the first advice that I'll give you is follow my original plan, which is do it as early as possible. There are so many people who clear it like even during internship, you guys, because the earlier you do it, the more all of your basic knowledge, like all of the basic sciences and the physiology and the anatomy and all of those things are in your mind, and you'll be able to clear it so much more beautifully. Like you will struggle so much less to revise, because I did struggle, because by the time I was third year, I forgot all of my bones and the ortho and the physiology aspect and everything, pharmacology and all of this thing. I forgot a lot of details about it, like renal physiology, sodium potassium pumps. Oh my god, it was a struggle to relearn them. I am a bit of a nerd and I enjoy learning and studying and all of this stuff. So I didn't really find it horrible, but I just know I struggled a lot more now than I would have if I had just done it at the end of my first year or middle of second year. The longer waiting does add more of a struggle to it than is required. So that's like the first advice I'll give you. So going back to my journey, I booked it in 2021 August. I was supposed to sit my exam in Jan 2022. I actually started really making a schedule and studying and everything. And this is the book that I followed. This is the Basic Science for the MRCS by Andrew Rafferty. This is the third edition. This book was actually recommended to me by one of my SRs in the department right from first year, and I actually bought it like quite a long time ago as well. So I didn't really open it till I booked my exam. It's very condensed. It's like really packed with stuff, and if you are not already really good with, if your basics are not very strong already, you might find this book a little too much. In that case, I wouldn't recommend it. But I've always been like a basics geek, and even in final year I used to study like a lot of basics, and because of that I felt like even when I was reading this, I did still go back to a lot of my first and second year books, my actual first and second year textbooks, to brush up on a lot of things. Why? Because those books are familiar, and and familiarity breeds a kind of confidence in you. It makes you feel like, oh, I know this stuff, I've read this stuff, I can literally see my handwritten notes on the side, and I've cleared this stuff already. So it just brings back a little bit of hidden memories. And then I was just like translated all of those into this book, which kind of just condensed the knowledge and was like a very good quick revision sort of a guide. So um, I would say that it's not a very expensive book. So if you can buy it, it will be really good, because I'll tell you one thing, I don't think that there was even one question that was asked out of this book, because that's how densely like packed this book is. Like if there was a question in the MRCS part A and you think that, oh, that was not mentioned in this book, if you go back to the topic somewhere, like in the comma, this point would have been mentioned. So obviously there's unless you have like an eidetic memory or photographic memory or something, you can't know every word in this book. But it's a very good guide as to what topics to cover for the MRCS part A. So yeah, so I started using this book, and then I was preparing for it, and I was considering, like, should I enroll for a course, should I not? And I'm glad that I did not enroll for a course at that point. Why? Because within a couple of weeks I got an email from the Royal College saying that my exam that was supposed to be in January 2022 has been pushed to May. um, the thing is that this is an advice another senior of mine, a senior resident of mine, gave me, who actually did attempt and pass the MRCS Part A, that till you book your exam, you're not going to study for it seriously. And that's true. You need that kind of deadline crunch hanging over your head to really plan and schedule and study. And I was on that process. And the moment I heard that I have an extra 5 months, like all of that sort of dissolved away, and my plan kind of got washed away, and I really slumped back into not really seriously preparing for it again. um, and then I only picked up my preparation much later, because I was in general surgery at that point, and it was really difficult to manage studying and doing this and everything. So in all my if in all honesty, I started preparing again for my exam that was supposed to be in May. I started preparing for it towards the end of March, probably. Seriously, like dedicated time. I used to read my book here and there, like whenever I could, on and off, but the serious preparations for me really did start only by the end of March. So if you really ask me, I spent maybe like 6 to 8 weeks maximum preparing for my MRCS Part A. If you ask me, was that enough? For me, apparently it was, because I passed it. But will it be for you will really depend on how confident you are on your basics, because like I said, I was never out of touch with my basics too much, and I just had to brush up a lot of things, like which I didn't really wasn't really using over the last 2.5 years as a general surgery resident, like my ortho and that stuff. But overall, I really did not struggle because my basics were strong. So if your basics are not strong, I really would recommend that you start much earlier, because basics are the kind of things that you really need to put a lot of time to study. You need to really understand and learn, and refer like 100 books, and then once it's there inside your head, then it really doesn't go away. Even if you don't use it, what happens is, like, if you have to, like, for example, like for the MRCS, when I had to come back and brush up all these things, renal physiology and all that, it's so complicated, but still I was able to kind of grasp it better, because at that time when I was really studying for it, I had studied it like really well. So if you are not confident about your basics, definitely spend more time studying for the MRCS. Don't depend on the fact that, oh, I cleared it in 8 weeks prep. Please don't depend on that. I'm not trying to be seem like big brainiac here, but that's just the facts. Okay, so moving on, the other thing is, did I enroll for a course? I actually didn't. And I'm actually really, really proud of the fact that I passed my MRCS A without a course. I'll tell you why and why not. Well, first off, I really thought like a course would help, and there is a SR in my hospital who's kind of like the MRCS guru, and he's like coached a lot of people to pass the MRCS. He obviously has the MRCS himself. And when I spoke to him and I approached him, he's the one who gave me all the WhatsApp groups or the Telegram groups and everything, all the links, all the resources. And he told me that you don't really need a course to pass, unless you're on a really time crunch and you have like just a couple of weeks left, and you need to and you're really going to like take off and study. It's not really going to add much. So I decided to follow his advice, and not book the any MRCS Part A course. It was not just his advice, monetary aspects were also a part of it. The exam itself, as you guys might know, is pretty expensive. In what do you say, British pounds wise, it's 500 something. And then I'll just tell you, in dirhams, in UAE dirhams, it was like around how much was it? Like 3,000 and something. And the course also was like around 1,500, something like that. So it was like I had to pay a 50% amount just for like a theory class. You know, it was not like a part B practical OSCE or anything where they'll show me steps or they'll show me like the right way to do it. It was just like they will just tell me like what to read. And if I already had a book that told me what to read, I can read that. So I personally, because of all of those reasons, I decided to not go for the MRCS Part A course. And I did pass without it also, so it's not like it's not doable. But what I will tell you is that it was a struggle, because I felt like people who were doing the course and who were in the Telegram and the WhatsApp groups, they were very well oriented as to like, you know, what and what not. And I was like, oh my god, I don't know this. There was a bit of panic towards the end, especially like, did I do enough, you know, should I have taken the course? So I don't think the panic was good for me, but ultimately the fact that like I was able to clear without the course makes me feel really good internally. But looking back, maybe if I had taken the course, I would have been less stressed out. But that's the only advantage I feel like it added, because ultimately I did study all the things essential for me to pass. But maybe around that time I would have been less stressed, because I knew that I had covered the right topics for sure if I hadn't been in a course. Otherwise, I don't think there's any added advantage, at least not for the Part A. So, right, so what basically the only thing extra that I did apart from this book and my first year books is I enrolled for the EMRCS. That's the, a lot of you who are preparing or planning to prepare for MRCS might know that this is the question bank that's available online, which contains all the past papers and similar questions and patterns and everything for the MRCS Part A and B. There is another similar website called Past Test, which is more expensive. And again, it was the same sir who guided me, and he told me that like EMRCS is more than enough. Past Test is like, you know, it's a bigger question bank. It's a good number more questions than EMRCS. But I felt like EMRCS was enough for me. And the best advice that I remember that I have given to more people now, now that I passed my MRCS Part A, and the advice that it's a hand-me-down, it's not mine originally, is that this sir told me that the first time you do EMRCS and you're going to score so low, you're going to feel like you don't know anything. You know, you're going to feel like, oh my god, I can't do this, like, you know, I'm not getting any of my answers correct and I'm never going to pass this exam, it's so difficult. You're going to feel that way. And he told me this, and I'm so glad that he told me this, because if he hadn't told me this, I would have been really, my confidence would have been really low when I started doing the EMRCS questions. So he said, do the EMRCS once, twice, at least thrice, and then see the way you improve, see the way your, you know, thinking changes, and like, you know, your knowledge has improved. So that's what I did. The first time I did not score anywhere above 60. Like I used to do the, if you have enrolled in EMRCS, you'll know that you can actually do like your own mocks, where you can just set like a number of questions, and the software will shuffle like a number of questions from the question bank and give it to you, and it'll give you a score at the end. It's like a timed exam, and it'll give you a score at the end. And I used to always keep doing mock tests, like with 120 or 180 questions as per the format itself, to get myself used to the pattern. And I never used to score above 60, and this was very devastating for me. But I always kept remembering what my sir told me. I was like, no, you know, it's going to get better, I'm going to do better. And yeah, and then the second time I started doing the EMRCS, and I wouldn't say that all of this was like because I remembered the questions and because they were repeated, because there are so many questions. It's not possible for you, again, unless you have a photographic memory, it's not possible for you to remember the answers to all of them. So it's more like you are learning from them, and that's why you're able to answer them better. And by the second time I was doing it, I was easily scoring like in the 80s. And obviously the third time was just like a revision to like, you know the topics and everything. And by that time, like, yeah, I was kind of remembering the questions now, because I had gone through them twice, and I was scoring like really, really high. So that's like one pretty good advice that I got while I was preparing, and I'm really grateful that I followed that advice. The other thing that I would like to say is past papers are very, very important. And in general, forget MRCS, in general, whenever I'm going for a multiple choice question based exam, an MCQ based exam, I always start and end with past papers. So I bookcase my studying very nicely between two evaluations of past papers. The first evaluation is to understand what the thinking of the examiner is, what kind of questions are asked, what kind of topics are covered, and I make like a small note about all the topics and everything that I have to revise. Like maybe this topic I'm not very familiar with and I have to really focus on reading it more. Maybe this kind of topics I'm good with, so I don't have to struggle too much on them. So I'll just make a mental note or even a physical note of what to follow. And then the intermediate part of my studying will be full of referring books and questions and theory books and whatever. And then the last bookend will be a revision of these past papers, and this time I will actually sit and do the past papers and know that I have these topics covered. So past papers are very important in whichever exam, especially the MRCS Part A, because it will help you understand what kind of topics you have to go for and all of that. Yeah, so going on to my journey, what happened was I did the MRCS, I did my books, and I am an avid flashcard creator. If you were following me during that time of my MRCS Part A prep, you will see that I was always buried in my flashcards. I feel like flashcards are very good for MCQ exams because there are so many pointers that you have to kind of keep remembering, like a lot of triads, a lot of this and that. So flashcards are like a fun way to keep studying. So if you are into flashcards, I would really suggest doing flashcards. Okay, the next thing that I want to tell you guys is the MRCS Part A, as all of you might know, is a two-part exam. So you have a first part, which is more like basic sciences. That's like a 3-hour exam with 180 questions. And then you have a 1-hour break in between, and then followed by a 2-hour paper that is 120 questions and more like clinical applied sciences, right? So it's a long ordeal, you guys. Attempting a 5-hour exam, even with a 1-hour break in between, is no joke. Like your brain is just so saturated and exhausted of solving questions. In fact, there is a term called decision fatigue where your brain just gets tired of making decisions, right? Like because each question is like a decision, right? You have to make a decision, like what's going to be your answer. And there is an actual established term called decision fatigue where you take so many decisions together and then your brain just is like, I just don't want to take any more decisions. And that really does happen to you. You really, you can really feel that by the time you reach a certain point, you're like, I don't care if I'm even wrong. Like, I don't want to go back and read this question again and correct it, or I don't want to do any more questions. You really get tired. And it's inevitable. Even on the exam, it'll happen. You can't prevent it, but you can at least try to manage it. How is using the technique that I had just mentioned before? If you guys had noticed, in EMRCS and all, you have the questions, exams are timed, and you can select like 180 questions for 3 hours and then 120 questions for 2 hours. And I used to do mock tests like this, where I used to tell my family or my husband or whoever that like, I'm going to do a mock test, like don't bother me, imagine that I'm not here, I'm at an exam. And I used to set it like that so that like I was really giving like a fake MRCS Part A once a week or twice a week or however. And this kind of put my brain into that thinking that, oh, there's no way out of this. Like she's not going to get up till she finishes these 180 questions and then she does a good job out of them. So that training does help your brain to not end up in decision fatigue on the day of the exam. So I would really recommend that you practice, force yourself into put yourself into mocks and force yourself to sit down for 3 hours and with a 1-hour break and a 2-hour exam after that, to get yourself used to that extreme brain fatigue that's really going to hit you on the day of the exam. So yeah, definitely mock tests are also one of the ways that I feel like I was able to crack the exam that day. Just to be clear, I didn't pass with an amazing score or anything. In fact, I just made the cutoff, which honestly I don't care. That's all I wanted, because it's just a pass or fail. It doesn't matter. Yeah, there are certificates of excellence and academic blah 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 that you get if you score the highest, but I wasn't no way looking for the highest. I just want my MRCS to be done so that I can do the GM's registration and then have future options in my hand. So if you're looking for that academic excellence kind of a thing, then definitely go for a course, definitely commit, for a lot more months and a lot more hours and everything into the MRCS Part A. But if you are not looking for that, if you just want to clear your Part A to get to Part B, then just do what is enough for you. Okay? And I'm pretty sure that I left out a lot of things. Um, what I will do is like just leave all your questions and comments and everything below. And if I get enough subscribers before I have to answer the questions, then I'll try to make it into a live session, and I'll put it out on my Instagram channel or whatever, so you guys can like join in and then ask me questions more live. If I don't have enough subscribers to go live by then I might just like put the answers on Instagram, or I'll reply to the comments on the YouTube page or something. Anyways, I'll get the answers to you. Okay. So yeah, I have been talking for 20 minutes straight. I hope this was helpful. I'm always trying to put stuff out there, even if it makes me awkward speaking to myself on a screen. But I'm always trying to put stuff out there that helps you guys, because I love helping people. Obviously, I became a doctor for that. So let me know whatever I can add more to the video to make it more beneficial for you guys. Okay? And subscribe, because that's what YouTube bloggers are supposed to say. Like, share, subscribe. Okay, you guys, till next time. See you. Bye-bye.